Good morning and welcome to Paul T's World. In this video, we're going to look at how to feed the birds in the winter. Feeding the birds in winter really attracts them into the garden. It's exciting. You never quite know what's going to arrive next. There will be the obvious birds that you know inhabit your garden, but then every now and again, a special bird comes in, and that's part of the joy. So let's just have a look at what I feed the birds. And first of all, I've shown you a lot this last few years, the birds coming to the feeder with the fat balls, with little bits of seeds in, mixed up. It's fairly soft. All the birds like the fat balls. The sparrows come, obviously all the blue tits, coal tits, great tits, long-tailed tits. We've had a lot of long-tailed tits this year. And they are mainly in the garden because of the food that I put out for them. There's a mix here. This is called a seed mix of different kinds of seeds in here. Of course, we have the mealworms. You can actually have live or dried mealworms. I have the dried mealworms. I just gently soak them for 15 minutes in lukewarm water, and lots of birds like this. You'll remember earlier on in the year, I did some photography out in the garden, and one of the first birds to come was the jay. That jay came because of these mealworms. Later on, it started eating fat balls and got a taste for the fat balls. But the mealworms can bring in all sorts of different birds, and our lovely British robin loves mealworms. We have more suet here. This is in half a coconut. Now, we're not feeding the birds coconut, it's purely the container, and we do that a lot in Britain, of putting suet in half a coconut. Obviously the coconut already has its hanger. I actually take this off and I put a metal hook through here. And of course we have the sunflower hearts. This is the main food I use. Some sunflower seeds still have their husks on. They can be the black ones or indeed the black and white striped ones. I don't use those because the birds discard the husk and you end up with a little bit of a mess of husk at the end of the day. Whereas with these sunflower hearts, the birds eat all of the sunflower heart. So you might ask, which is the best? Some of you, particularly people who are feeding for the first time, are not going to be wanting to put out 4 different feeds for the birds. And I wouldn't recommend that. First of all, you've got to start getting the birds used to coming to your garden, knowing there's some food there. And what I would do is, number 1, get some sunflower hearts. Virtually all birds will eat sunflower hearts. Fat balls are a good staple as well. So if you're just feeding with one food, get the hearts. And if you want to mix it up and see what comes in the garden, also get some fat balls or a suet log, or indeed half a coconut. Hang half a coconut from a tree. And I am going to experiment with this seed mix. This is not a sponsored video, however, I buy all my food from a company called Brynvale. And I've been buying from Brynvale online. I just order online, the food comes the next day, and I've been doing that for 5 or 6 years. Very convenient. All they do is sell bird food. The quality is fantastic. The birds will eat all this with no waste. I contacted Brynvale telling them I was going to do a video on feeding the birds, and they very generously actually sent me some extra food that I could demonstrate to you. When I order online with Brynvale, if you spend over, I think it's £20, delivery is free. They always include an extra little something as a bonus over and above what you've ordered, which is quite nice. So if you register with the company so they know who you are each time you order, they actually give you points for every order, and points make prizes. They give you points with every order, and those points add up, and once you have, I don't know, 100 points or 200 points, you can then choose some extra fat balls for free, or maybe half a coconut. Oh, that beautiful winter sunshine just coming across the garden. Isn't that lovely? What's really great about feeding the birds is that the extra species and the extra number of birds that come in the garden is fabulous. Over this summer, you've seen the long-tailed tits. They've featured in a lot of the videos. They are all the youngsters from this last spring. It's the first time I've fed properly right the way through the spring and the summer, and it has rewarded me so much because the adults brought in those chicks, the chaffinches, the greenfinches, the jays, the woodpecker even, and particularly the long-tailed tits. All those were youngsters from this spring. The adults brought them into my garden and showed them where the food was. And you know, they've come back right up until today, and they will still come. They know that there's always going to be food in Paul T's world, and they come to rely on it. So if you do start feeding the birds, just make sure that you continue to feed the birds. Can you hear that robin singing? Isn't that lovely? Now, the robins are in the garden all the time. I have what, oh, it's just gorgeous, that robin singing. I could just sit here all day. I could just stand here all day and listen to these robins. And the dunnocks, they have started singing as well. The blackbirds, not so much so. The blackbirds have taken a little bit of a breather, but come, February, March, the blackbirds will be singing as well. The blackbirds have been feeding on the fat balls, not so much the sunflower hearts. They love the apples that I have down at the base of the apple tree. I've saved some of the windfalls through the autumn, and so there are apples to be put out slowly as the birds eat them. That robin's getting louder and louder. And the field fairs will come. Often in the winter a field fair comes, and that field fair wants the apples. I have the bullfinches. They love the sunflower hearts. All the tit family, the blue tits, the coal tits, the long-tailed tits, they all like the fat balls. However, all of them, except the long-tailed tits, like the sunflower hearts as well. Robin will do anything for a mealworm, particularly when they have chicks. And it's when they have chicks that you can actually get the robins to come and take the mealworms from your hand. So I really want to encourage you to feed the birds, but you have to choose an appropriate place to put the bird food. Now, when you start putting bird food out, if you haven't done it before, you have to be patient. You have to be really patient. Those birds will not suddenly come to the garden and start feeding on the food. They have to get used to it. They have to realize it's there. And sometimes you'll have some of the more confident birds. Maybe a robin will come to the sunflower hearts. The other birds will notice this, see what the robin does, and they will do the same. And once you have one or two birds coming, then the rest will start coming. But do be patient and do make sure that the food stays fresh. Now, you'll notice that I haven't mentioned peanuts. Peanuts actually is a good food and is excellent, and it's the traditional food that we feed our birds in Britain. However, now sunflower hearts, seed food mixes, suet and the fat have taken over. Peanuts have really high fat value and are excellent for birds. The only thing is you need to have a feeder that's got a small mesh so the birds have to pick small pieces of the peanut, because otherwise they can choke, and you don't really want to be feeding peanuts in the spring when there are young birds about, because we don't want adult birds feeding the youngsters with peanuts. So let's have a look at where we put the bird food and what we put the bird food in. Let's look at the feeders. There are any number of receptacles, feeders for the fat balls. This is one that I use. Can just about fit 3 in that one. And there we are. And then we just hang that up in an appropriate place that I'll talk about in a minute. Mealworms, I simply put some in a small container. This little tureen is fine. You've seen many of the birds eating from this. You can put them in a tray or indeed put them on the ground. And then I just put a little bit of water in, say something like that. Leave that for 15 minutes. Just let the moisture be soaked up by the dried mealworms. And then that's a fabulous food for adults and chicks. You don't want to leave them too much in the water because you don't want them to go soggy. So after about 15 minutes, what I might do is just take some of the water out. Just hung that fat ball up on the tree. Literally this second, I'm filming here. I've just hung them up and the long-tailed tits have come straight down to them there. Isn't that fabulous? I'm just standing quite quietly about 7 or 8 feet from them. They're quite used to me now. One has gone over to the coconut. Oh, he's flown off now. The birds are waiting for me to finish this video. I can see birds flying around. Where are they? There they are. They're waiting for me to finish. Well, they're not waiting for me to finish the video, are they? They've decided they want the food right now. They're not interested in YouTube videos. They're interested in having some fat ball right now. See if I can find any others. They come in the apple tree. All the birds seem to travel around together, so this blue tit will travel around with the long-tailed tits. Now, chaffinches, I can see there's a chaffinch in the apple tree right now, and he's come along as well. I say he, there are 2 or 3 males and 3 or 4 females. Let's just have a look to see what other birds are around. Oh, there we are. We've got a dunnock right there. Now, the dunnock is one of the very, very few birds that don't actually come onto the fat balls. They will come on the ground and scavenge whatever other birds have knocked off the fat balls, or indeed the sunflower hearts. Now, can you see his beak? He's got a thin beak, if you can make that out. So he's more of an insect eater. If you have birds with thin beaks, it's more for insects. Then you have the finches with thicker beaks, and they like the seeds. Right, so now the birds they've gone. Okay, so there was a little flurry, and they'll be back again in another hour or so we can carry on with the video. Brynvale have very kindly sent me 2 of their most popular feeders, and these feeders will be ideal for the seed mix and for the sunflower hearts. So let's have a look at the feeders. Obviously you hang them up here, just lift that up to put the food in. Very sturdy, I think it's metal. These are squirrel proof. What I mean by squirrel proof is the squirrels will not destroy this at all. Squirrels will get to it, of course, and they'll get the food inside and they'll swing about on them, but they will not destroy or damage this feeder at all. Now, what I like about this feeder, it has a thread here, so if you have some kind of pole with a thread on top, you could actually have this screwed to the top of a pole with that thread. And the other thing that's even more important, I don't know whether you can see here, but you can actually take this apart. There's a little screw there. Unscrew that and this will slip right out, so you can clean these, because you do want to clean the feeders fairly regularly, because there's an extra number of birds here and there can be bacteria and the such like. So always best to clean them. This is obviously a larger one. I'll tell you what bird absolutely adores these sunflower hearts, and that's the greenfinches and the goldfinches. And once they come on here, they will sit here and eat all day. This is a special mix that Brynvale have formulated. I can see all sorts of things in here. And we'll see what birds, we'll do a little experiment and see what birds prefer this mix and what birds prefer the sunflower hearts. It looks a good mix, this. Right, so we'll pop that up. Let's have a look at the larger one here. So with this larger one, I will put sunflower hearts in. So So as I say, if you're only going to feed the birds one food, I would recommend sunflower hearts. If you're going to feed the birds two foods, sunflower hearts and fat balls. And in a minute we'll have a look at where we should put these feeders. It's quite important where the feeders go. Let's see where we put these feeders. You want a place where the birds feel confident that they can rush back to safety at a moment's notice and away from predators. So as you know from all my videos, I planted this area here, so it's ideal with the trees and the bushes. So what the birds like to do is they sit there, check that the coast is clear, and then dart out to feed on the coconuts or the seeds. So I hang the coconut there. I've just put the seed hopper there, hanging from the apple tree. And we've already got the fat balls here. And indeed, I've only just put them up, and as you saw, we've already had plenty of birds feeding from it straight away. Absolutely fabulous. It keeps the garden alive, helps the birds through the cold winter nights. It's not just food, of course, that birds need in the winter. They need water. Birds keep warm by what's inside them, but also the feathers. And that's why birds preen and keep all their feathers in tip-top condition. If they don't, they just won't keep warm. And they need water for that. So they need water just as much in the winter as they do in the summer. So please put water out, clean water for them in the winter. So you'll see them having a bath in the cold, freezing water. They do like it, and then preen afterwards. We wouldn't exactly be doing that, but they realize how important it is. So in the morning, if your bird bath is frozen over, take the ice out and replenish it with clean, fresh water. I've put a link to Brynvale down in the description below should you wish to try out their food. It's the food I always buy. I would like to thank Brynvale for sending some extra food and the two feeders to show you today. So if it's proved useful to you, please give the video a like. Hey, why not subscribe and see what I'm going to do next year in Paul T's world. Bye.